Yes! Hello and welcome to the Holy Hour Podcast, the bi-weekly all-cure podcast. We have a lovely episode for you out there tonight. We are joined by our good old buddies Donald and Chaz and our new buddy Nat. Hello out there.
What's
How's
up,
it going, Nat?
Hello! Hey guys!
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for reaching out and instigating this whole episode. So I love it when not only do we get a great idea from a listener, but then you're totally willing to just like right off the bat. Like usually it takes us about half a year to get an idea rolling, contact the person, and but it's been a fairly short turnaround, I feel like. So
well, I'm pretty nervous and stuff, but I'm definitely happy to be here with you guys, and thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
It sounds like the finishing line, though. I shouldn't start with it.
Yeah, we'll see.
My ego needs it. It actually feels really good to hear that right now.
So we're all battling through all this, and you're out in Vancouver, right?
Yes, correct.
Awesome.
Nice.
So,
right on the ocean.
Very awesome.
So yeah, we're all
hoping
to take this positive momentum we're getting. By the time this comes out, the whole world could have imploded again, but, for as far as we know. But as of now, we're hoping things are looking all right up there. Then.
Oh yes.
No murder hornets coming in to throw an additional wrinkle on things.
Yeah, I know.
After everyone's out.
Fucking murder hornets. Great.
It's like you open up the parks and everyone goes and they all get stung.
Kill that murder.
2020, yay!
Yeah. So we'll save that for next year, maybe. But yeah, well, that's cool. I'm glad you guys doing all right, Donald and Chaz, making it through past week or so.
Yeah.
Still trucking.
I'm here, so we're good to go, I guess.
It's fucking terrible and terrifying.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But
okay.
I mean, within the house, I'm fine. It's just that as soon as you step outside, it's when it gets scary.
Yeah.
So,
I've been working this whole time. It sucks balls. But during this quarantine, a cool, refreshing hams from the land with sky blue water. And the only thing that keeps me sane is the cool, refreshing hams and talking to friends in Vancouver. And hold on a sec. Oh, I'm taking a loud sip because it's so good.
That sounded delicious.
Oh, so dripping on your beard a little there, man.
Woo! I'll wring it out and drink it. That's how good hams is.
All right. So available all over. All right. Well, speaking of the old days, there was a quirky little show that came out called South Park, and that's the reason why we've all gathered tonight. Nat was kind enough to throw a very obvious episode topic our way.
Yeah, I can't believe we never.
Yeah, it's like
I'm surprised. I thought you were just waiting for somebody to kind of jump in and motivate you guys.
Yeah, that's 90% of us. But yeah, I mean, it could have fallen in better hands too. Just the rough story of what we got of how this all unravels. But yeah, it was quite a epic moment for the Cure history timeline when they appeared on the show South Park. And so yeah, thank you so much, Nat, for throwing the idea our way and being our guest on this topic in particular too. So it's actually, as far as going back, I do want to mention before we get rolling on South Park of how weird this past week has been in Cure history as far as like 1 billion anniversaries of albums coming out just in what is this, like
back to
second week of May or first week of May, and just how cool that was. There's been tons of them that we've seized the opportunity to sprinkle in our old episodes in the feed, but just kind of cool as far as how many episodes, and there's a few more even on the horizon. And as I was talking with Nat before we made this call, it's an anniversary for you as well in the last week, right? Of Cure.
Oh, yes.
Fandom.
You got it. Absolutely, yes. 10 years ago, I became a big fan of The Cure.
All right.
I actually became a big fan right away. So it was like, I was a metal fan in Russia.
Okay. Awesome.
Who suddenly became a Cure fan.
Yeah.
Oh,
God.
Cool. What kind of metal are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like different kind of Finnish metal. Do you know Finnish metal? Like European bands?
Like black metal and stuff?
No, it's more like symphonic, gothic, power metal and stuff like that. Like Nightwish, Ham, Sonata Arctica, and bands like this.
Cool. I've heard of some of those bands. I've heard of some of those, like, where they're just, like, they just shred hard, like...
So that's what I was listening to when I was young and innocent. God. And then on the 6th of May, 2010, I decided to listen to The Cure, to give them a chance, because I knew that it's like a goth band.
Yeah. It's like, what's the deal with these guys?
Oh God,
that's awesome.
So yeah, it was very superficial in the beginning, just me trying to, be a teenager and stuff. But then it developed into a big love that I'm sure will last forever. And yeah, this was my 10 years anniversary last week and this month. So yeah, it is a big anniversary. Thank you.
Yeah.
Was Disintegration like your first?
Yeah, what was the first?
It was Pornography.
Oh, damn. He went straight in the deep end.
I wanted it darker.
Right. Yeah. Had you been tipped off that was the darkest of dark? Had somebody...
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed, I guess, but...
You're like, this isn't dark.
The rest is not that dark. But...
Yo, I like you so much. Totally.
Awesome.
Like, how come all of it isn't like this? Like, we're just shreds and it's dark and gnarly. Like,
yeah, but I don't know. There's something about The Cure that just kind of resonated with me. Even like the top resonated with me, right away. Yeah. I don't know. I think it was just like the moment of growing up when the music stopped being cool because it's dark and heavy. It was just like good music regardless of how dark and heavy it is, kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. Cool. So you had researched that yourself, you think? Is that why you chose Pornography, or just by chance you got that one?
Yeah, you know what? I think I Googled it, like, the darkest albums of The Cure.
Awesome.
I don't know. It was like 10 years ago. I don't remember the exact moment, but I remember... I know it was, like, inspired by a comment, because I took some photos with the crazy hair, and somebody commented saying, "You look like Robert Smith." I was like, "Oh, I know this guy from South Park."
So it's like, "Hey, you look like Robert Smith," and you're like, "What?"
Like guy from South Park.
So I knew what's The Cure, but I never got into them really until 2010. So
that's awesome.
I'm like the younger generation of Cure fans, I guess, but.
No, that's great. Yeah, hear more and more perspectives of people aside from us. They're just like, why are we still talking about this band?
Hearing some always relevant, always relevant. I don't see it going away ever. It's like the only band that is like whatever I feel, and there's always the Cure song that I can relate to, no matter which situation I'm in my life.
Yeah,
so
great. Yeah, totally. Yeah, even love cats occasionally, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Dancing during quarantine in your kitchen by yourself—that's love cats.
Something for every mood, for sure.
Like dusting, like just dusting your house and just like doomed.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, there's something. Yeah, before we had hit the go button here, you had mentioned that, and you kind of just mentioned it in passing. That the South Park episode with Robert Smith was your first introduction at all.
God.
Yeah, no, that's very cool that it just happened to fall in this episode of what we're talking about and the anniversary, so it all ties in, and
perfectly, yeah.
Very cool that so yeah, we're gonna talk about the episode involving Robert Smith and South Park. And so were you guys, I guess just a question for everybody, where were you at as far as South Park fandom? Were you like on board right from the start, or was this something that you only watched that one because he had heard The Cure was on there, or where are you big South Park fans now? Even so, where's everybody at with South Park in general?
I'll go last.
Okay.
Oh, great.
So was that the first? We'll start with Nat then, I guess. Was that the first episode of South Park you saw, or was it the?
No, it wasn't. When it came out, I was like 6, so it was definitely. It's awesome. Thankfully, I didn't watch it when I was 6. This would just fuck up my brain forever. Not that it's all right now, but yeah, I watched it when I was 13, so it was like about 2010. Or 2013, and this is when I started watching, kind of like getting into MTV culture, and South Park was broadcasted on like Russian MTV.
Cool.
And they were just like, I feel like they were repeating season by season, so they were like going in the loop from season 1 to season 7.
Okay.
And this is why they were like, every year they were like repeating season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is how it wasn't the first one, it was one of the first ones.
Right on.
I'm sure, but yeah, I remember that there was something about South Park that just kind of impressed me right away.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was 13.
Smart.
There was like this big sign before the episode saying you're only allowed to watch it if you're 14. And I was 13, so I felt like a little rebel. And
you're like, fuck it,
I'm doing it.
I was super proud of myself, and I remember like turning it off when my parents were like coming into my room to see what I'm doing. I was like, oh, nothing. No, I'm not watching South Park.
Like you felt really edgy for a minute, and then your parents came into the room. You're like, oh shit, I'm almost 13. Like, shit.
Exactly. That's exactly what was happening.
Donald, that happened a lot when you were 13?
Not with South Park, though. Something more interesting. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know. I was just like, I don't know, South Park. I don't know, because it's so weird and it's relevant and it's funny and there are many people who think it's like a dumb show, but at the same time, I think that the creators are actually super smart because they know exactly how to, showcase all the issues of the society and all this.
They do it fast. That's the key to that show. It's like it's like really on the scene, really on the point. Like I love that about them.
Yeah,
they're still doing this. Yeah,
they're still doing it. Like I haven't watched South Park in a couple years. Like
there are like 23 seasons they're on now or something
crazy.
Like that. So it's
Have you ever watched the 6 Days to Air documentary that they did?
Nah, I don't think so.
Yeah, they
I heard about it.
They did. Just they broke down one episode and showed how they made it, and it literally takes them 6 days. Like they start on Tuesday, and then
I did see that.
Yeah. Okay, I did. Yeah, I just didn't know the name.
So I remember hearing that like they were notorious for like not having the finished version until like the hour before it was supposed to air. So it's just pretty awesome. Kind of love the slacker mentality there, but
I love that about art, like just that immediacy. Like we're just like something happens and it's just like bing bang boom, it comes out. It's like it's so immediate, and that's what's important about good art. Like or I think about some art, not all art. Like I like some slow burn art, but I like that reactionary art. Like I feel like it moves society forward. That's what I like about South Park.
Yeah, they're always really right on with it too. I was surprised looking back at how early this one was. I felt like I'd been watching it for. I mean, I guess it's season 1, episode 12, but I felt like it was way later, at least like season 3 or something, like just from how many we had watched. But
and they dropped that Cure shit right off the gate.
Well, like when it first started, I had a girlfriend that was really into it right away. Yeah, I know.
Good bragging.
I had one or two, but this was a real one though. When I was like 16, and she was really into it, and I had like no idea what she was talking about because she would be like quoting like Cartman like all the time.
Right.
So was like, all right, I got to start watching this so I know what the fuck she's talking about when we're hanging out. So then, it was definitely the first season. I know that. So it was early on. But like I remember like the other day when you brought this up, I was like, oh, that's like season like 4 or 5. Yeah. So I was going through my Hulu trying to find it. And I was just like, when the fuck is this? And I had to look it up, and it was the first season. I was like, Jesus Christ.
I kind of feel like, from my memory, because, we latched onto it pretty early, too, where we were watching it in order. We were like
first season boys.
And I almost didn't... I'm trying to remember if I knew Robert Smith was going to be on it or not, or if it was just like this awesome surprise, because, we were definitely into him at that point, but like... I don't remember. Whoa.
There they go.
But I remember like South Park though would always like do like 5 episodes and then they just wouldn't put one out for like 3 weeks or something. So it was never a very clear start to end to a season, like they were so slack about it. It'd be like 3 new episodes and they would just gotta disappear for like 3 months and then so like a whole year would go by before the season was over or something. But you're a pretty big fan from the start, Chaz? Were you?
Yeah, like I just thought it was kind of like Beavis and Butthead kind of thing, where push the envelope, and like push what was acceptable at the time, and it definitely. I don't know if they really tackled too many issues like when the show first started, but it was definitely like kind of like a big middle finger to like the censors and like what they could get away with. So I think I like that just because I was like 16 and that was what life was all about back then. Right. So
just like being edgy and being an edgelord, like
like that was super edgy when it first started, but like after the first year, like you had people wearing T-shirts and like quoting. The different characters and everything. I was like, this is kind of getting lame. Yeah. But I still watched it, and like I still love the show, and I still watch it from time to time. But my wife does not like it, and that's like the one thing I gave up for her when we first started dating was South Park. So I had to backtrack, and thankfully it's like all on Hulu now, so I can pretty much watch it whenever I want to. So.
Watch it in private.
Yeah. Don't come in here.
Nothing feels better than watching a cartoon at 11:30 at night when you're just sitting there by yourself.
You'd rather be caught masturbating.
Yeah. Oh,
what are you watching? Nothing.
Nothing. Leave me alone.
So it's I still enjoy it. I was just watching a couple episodes before we started, so I was like, so definitely rad. Cool. So what about you, Gavin?
Along those lines, I felt like we kind of caught on to it early and really dug it, and that's why I feel like I was surprised by like just Robert Smith out of nowhere was in this episode, and we're like, oh shit, like it was a definite big deal because it was a weird time frame too, and we'll get into it I guess as we plow through the timeline of it, but it was the Galore had just came out and like didn't do that great as far as like a singles compilation and stuff too, so it was kind of weird that they were like hitting a weird popularity phase for The Cure. They were kind of phasing out where they weren't really on breaking through to the mainstream as much anymore. They weren't like the alternative bands, so they were kind of lost after Wild Mood Swings, and it was cool that they had this like weird swipe with relevant kid, like a younger, hipper thing to be a part of, as opposed to just being the older band that's just kind of putting out albums at this point. And you could see he was even just a little like surprised by that. And who knows if it was like it didn't seem very calculated by any means, because it seemed like he was pretty down with these guys from what he had seen.
But it was needed. It was a good reminder of like, hey, this is a good fucking record, and they did that in that episode. Just like we reminded everyone of like, nah, this one's the kind of the jam, guys. Like, don't sleep on this.
So yeah,
that's why South Park's dope.
Totally. So the episode in question is called Mecha-Streisand. Like I said, it's episode 12. Came out February 18, 1998.
It's so silly.
It's 22 years ago too. And I've mentioned this on the show before, where it's funny how when I think of like 30 years of Disintegration, doesn't really make me feel as old, even though because I was such a little kid. Even Wish when I was like a kid when that came out, but like. At this point, like this makes me feel older because I remember like just drinking beers with Donald in the basement watching South Park, you know, and I'm like,
what?
Like,
we never did that. We never did.
It's like, it's pretty much what we would be doing now, you know? So it's kind of like, man, that was 22 years ago. Jeez.
Not a lot has changed.
Yeah, so it's pretty crazy.
It's been a minute.
But yeah. But if anybody isn't familiar, I thought Wikipedia actually had a good synopsis of the show. Like, we probably don't need to really describe the show to anybody out there that, you know, would be listening to this, but their
Have
little
you ever
review.
heard of South Park?
Yeah, South Park or The Cure.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, The Cure.
I thought we were The Cure.
I thought we were going to act this out line by line.
Yeah, we should. But
Donald was going to show his Asian impersonation he's been working on.
yeah.
Don't. I'll do it.
But basically, the premise is based off of.
It's art. I think we're allowed, right?
Yeah.
No. There goes your sponsorship right here.
But the premise is based off of Godzilla movies, and strangely enough, it's a weird, even for South Park episode, as far as how they like just mesh it all together. You know, it's like, so yeah, it's basically Robert Smith. In their review, it says is Smithra, and he has been a longtime member of an elite circle of guardians of the universe, along with Sidney Poitier and Leonard Maltin, who turn into giant monsters to protect the world from harm. He is summoned by Maltin and Chef to defeat the enormous Mecha-Streisand when she appears in South Park, and apparently. Trey Parker, Matt Stone were huge Godzilla fans, and from the start they wanted to do a Godzilla episode no matter what. That was like in the idea of the original season there, and
Sidney Poitier is a funny I totally forgot about
definitely
that.
Weird choices of like who else.
So fucking great.
What? Leonard Maltin.
I understood like having Robert Smith on the show because like you're actually having him on the show, but like I didn't understand like doing a fake Barbra Streisand. Like I didn't like I kind of get that because maybe they hate her, but like but then Sidney Poitier and Leonard Maltin, I'm like, where the fuck did they come from?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It's just the best. It's so fucking ludicrous. Like,
and that concept too. Like, what the hell? Why would you?
I wonder if Robert Smith is the first celebrity they had on that actually did a voice.
Second, they said, because they would happen more frequently later on, but they said at this point in the season, Robert Smith was only the second celebrity to ever do their own voice. Natasha Henstridge is, I think it was a chick from like Species or something. Is that
yeah.
I don't know what that. She was in the Tom's rhinoplasty episode, but she was the first actual celebrity. But then all the rest they would just do the voices for, you know. But So he was super early on, probably the first.
Building a career of just doing the same voice over, because that's all it is. They just do the same voice over and over again of bad impersonations. It's amazing.
It's pretty amazing. So they modeled them off of Godzilla, you know, Mothra, and were you guys big Godzilla phased? Anybody go through watching the old Godzilla movies? Yeah,
when I was really young. When
I was in high school. And I was like stuck at home. I'd get high and like the only thing on like
watch Godzilla bootlegs.
This is like pre-cable, pre-South Park, like just like whatever was on, and like
I watched some Godzilla movies, and visually I like them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was like one weird summer where I watched like all of them, but it never really stuck. But I was definitely, you know, like you always have that one weird summer in school where you just watch whatever the rerun was that summer, you know. And, did you ever get into them or were able to track any of them down? Did you watch any of those old, terrible Godzilla movies?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
They were big in the 90s for sure. So even before South, like I knew what they parodying, even though I was like 13 and stuff. So absolutely.
It's weird. You wonder even now though, like how much kids even see those or anything. I feel like I'm sure that word
I haven't seen the new ones, right? Because they had some new ones coming
the
recently.
new ones are fucking awesome.
Are they?
Oh,
they are so good.
But like When did they do that '90s Godzilla movie?
The one with Matthew Broderick? Oh God, yeah, that must have been around 90.
It was like the same time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, because it was
the worst.
Oh, it was terrible. I saw opening night. It was
so
terrible.
bad. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, Gavin, I saw it at the movie theater.
Yeah. I dated this girl that was doing all these promotion things, so we were supposed to go and hand out like flyers at it or something, and then we got to watch the movie afterwards. And I was like, none of this is worth it. This is horrible.
Oh God,
so bad.
And it was a modeling agency.
Yeah.
Gavin and I were models at a Godzilla
movie theater premiere or whatever. And it wasn't even like a cool theater. It was like a fucking
Regal
mall.
Yeah, Regal.
Yeah,
whatever.
it's like some shitty fucking mall. So, I mean, you're technically talking to a couple of models right now.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just saying.
22 years ago. Keep in mind. It's been a long 22 years.
Jesus.
So the fact that they wanted Robert Smith to be Mothra spin-off Smithra was because it was Trey Parker's favorite character. I don't know if you could stretch and make that a caterpillar reference too, maybe, but I think he just had to go with Mothra.
Like a moth in the caterpillar.
Yeah, something like that, but that's probably a by chance reference more than anything direct, I would think. Yeah. But so yeah, the whole thing was done just for some fun background on it. With lines, he I guess saw a few episodes while on tour for Galore, I'd assume in '97. And they contacted, somehow they were able to get in touch, and he agreed to it because he liked the first few episodes he saw. But they went about it by sending him the script, but just his lines. So Robert Smith had no clue what the hell the storyline actually was. So he would call it and they would just walk him through and he would record his lines apparently. So he was totally like, what the hell? And, you know, despite his deadpan voice, they said they used all his lines from the phone recording. And there was
but that's like the legit Robert's voice. That's the thing, right?
Totally.
It's like it's perfect.
It was very sincere.
Yeah.
And there's a quote I lifted for, I think it might have been from the Never Enough book, but it's pretty funny where Robert says, yeah, it was weird because I'd only seen a couple of the early South Park episodes. Then they sent me the script and I pissed myself laughing. They sent him a tape of the earlier episodes and he pissed himself laughing. He said, I stayed up all night and went into this radio station and recorded my words down on a phone line. I had no idea what it was about. I had one of them on the other end of the line of the phone directing me saying, please sound more like Robert Smith. Come on.
Be more Robert here.
Be more Robert Smith. And about 6 months later, I saw the episode. I was completely thrown by what they had done with it. It was great. I was walking off and Kyle saying, Disintegration is the best album ever is one of the greatest moments of my life.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet. And then he goes on to say that his 20 plus nieces and nephews thought he was the coolest from it. He said when they saw that episode, they worshipped me. They kept asking him, "What's a disintegration, Uncle Bob?"
That's like me.
What's a disintegration?
They were just like repeating it at him, like disintegration best album.
Yeah. He says, "Now that I'm a cartoon character, I'm fully accepted into their world. Everything I did, travel, experiencing so many things, making good selling records means nothing to them. But since my appearance on South Park, I'm immortal now. Bastards.
Bastards. That's from the book.
I was just going to ask, so Orgasmo came out in 97.
Okay. Did it?
I
heard... I had
either 98 or 97, but it was...
I had in the autumn of the same year being 98 Orgasmo came out, but I didn't look at the movie or anything. But
so they already had a prior...
So they probably had recorded it, but then they hadn't put the music to it maybe till later. Like maybe they had already made the movie, but didn't do the song. Like they probably do that at the end there. So
yeah, possibly. I just don't know what the timelines were, but I would assume he already knew them prior to the South Park episode.
No, yeah, it sounded like he'd never met them From what I
okay.
It was weird. Like, definitely hadn't hung out or even really talked to him or anything. Like you said, he just had seen a couple episodes. They sent him that tape, so it sounded like they contacted him out of the blue. Really, they said I did have one quote of something where just noting, Trey Parker in particular is a huge Cure fan. Said that it was his lifelong dream to meet Robert Smith, and he was one of the few celebrities that he specifically wanted to request to make an appearance on the episodes. So.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Like initially I'd read that Matt Stone was too, but it sounds like Trey Parker's the more diehard there. It's not a contest, right? It's not a contest.
Are you, Donald, are you familiar with Orgasmo?
Yes.
Okay. What about you, Nat?
Even I am, yes, because I was watching all the South Park related stuff.
Yeah, it's quite a movie. I remember that was a big deal when we were finally able to track that down. I was like, this is amazing. Man. Yeah, it's definitely get the vibe. It's one of those movies that's funnier probably in my 20s or something. And like now, now I'm probably like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it holds up after the 15th viewing as much, but it's definitely some classic stuff in there, I think.
I don't watch movies anymore.
Nah, he's giving up the cinema.
You got more important things to do. It's
right, exactly.
But yeah, that's great. And they do a song for that. If anybody isn't familiar with what we're talking about, they went by the name Cogasm for it. And it's just Robert.
COVID-gasm?
COVID-gasm.
No.
Whoa. That's going to be their new project. But it's just Robert, Jason Cooper, and one of the earlier times of working with Reeves before he was officially in the band. So wrong number had been done by this point, but this was the next
That's so dope. Orgasm.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous as shit, man. That's why South Park's the best. Like, they're fucking ridiculous, but they're pretty spot on, you know, like had some Cure shit in there.
Yeah, and it's a rad song too. Is it on like Join the Dots or what is that on? And I don't think it is either, but weird. Is there anywhere people can hear that now without
probably just on YouTube if you just look it up. Yeah, I know the soundtrack was pretty, I don't know if it's pretty popular, but I know it was more or less popular for like a independent movie back then.
Yeah,
so
probably sold more copies of the soundtrack than the movie. Probably.
Yeah, like it's got a pretty good lineup. It's got Crystal Method, KRS-One,
hell yeah,
Wu-Tang Clan, the Dust Brothers, and Donald's favorite band, Smash Mouth.
I love Smash Mouth.
Yeah. So
reminds me of Summertime.
Yeah.
Oh man. And Shrek.
Is that the one that has
yes.
When you're a man, now you're a man. Something like that on there? Or is that one of the
it sounds like something like that.
I think that was the movie.
When you're a man. Man.
Yeah, it was like the South Park movie.
Was that
it is on this. It's called Now You're a Man by DVDA.
Yeah.
Which is Trey
DVDA
Parker.
Is the band. Yes, it's the band of Trey and Matt.
Okay.
You know the band.
Oh, I do.
I saw them on tour like 10 times.
Awesome. Hell yeah.
That's such a great name for a band.
You went deep on some South Park shit.
Damn.
Apparently. But it looks like this song appeared on Orgasmo soundtrack, and that's it.
Okay.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
Reeves played it solo when I saw him a couple years back with his. He was singing it and playing it.
I can't imagine Reeves participating in this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I can't.
He's like, I play with David Bowie, and now I'm like...
It's not even all the Cure at that point. It's just like him and the drummer show up. It's like,
for like an Orgasmo soundtrack, and it's like when he comes home, you know, like his partner's like, hey, what'd you do today? Oh, I like shredded over this song for like a movie called like Orgasmo. She's like,
okay. Great.
So you're playing porn music now?
What's going on?
Simon was like, yeah, I'm good. I think I'll sit this one out, guys.
I bet he regrets it.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty fucking epic.
Yeah,
you know?
it's an awesome song. I love it.
One regret in life.
God, like on his deathbed, he's like, I wish I played on the
Cellberg. Oh man. Yeah, I guess as far as the actual episode, there was some fun fact dropped somewhere I tracked down where the monsters, when they start battling each other and they come up with the songs. Had you heard of the background on that? How they do the little Barbara and all that stuff?
Yeah.
They do it like the Godzilla movies, but they said a Japanese man sings songs about each of the monsters while they approach. This mirrors a common element throughout actual Japanese monster movies, which commonly have theme songs for the monster characters. Trey Parker wrote the songs in Japanese language, which is kind of weird wording. Japanese,
and that was not written in
the Japanese language. The English translation for the song sung when Robert Smith transforms translates as "I really like Robert Smith," and then the lyrics sung by Mecha-Streisand translate to "Barbara, she's a bitch, Barbara." Barbara, she's a bitch.
They called her a bitch like 30 times in that episode.
Yeah.
They hate her.
Yeah,
like, why all the hate?
That was definitely documented. That there was like, we're fine with every celebrity we make fun of and all the shows pretty much except Barbara Streisand. We really hate her.
That's fucked up.
Apparently it got fueled even more after this. She was just like, this is the reason why, kids can't watch TV and trash like this and the downfall of culture. And she like really ripped into it. They're all like Leonard Moulton was fine with it. What's your problem?
Yeah.
She just missed the point that's the whole reason for the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I did call her a bitch like 20 times in it.
Well, I mean,
she was so huge.
She kind of deserved it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm not rushing to her defense by any means. But before Leonard Moulton transforms, he screams in Japanese, "Listen, here's a tulip," which Parker said is a phrase that Japanese children actually say right before they pass gas. So,
what did they say?
Who knows? Listen, here's a tulip is according to him some phrase that Japanese children will say as a joke before they fart. So that's what Leonard Moulton's song says before he transforms into the. He's the big turtle guy, right? Was the.
Yeah.
Or no, wait.
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah. Something like that.
I do. I love that saying. Like, I like to drop
Here's a
I fart sometimes, and like for my wife, and I'll like drop one and be like, "A kiss for you."
It's
the same thing. Like, here's a flower.
Like, here's a
kiss. Like, here's a sweet thing, but like, here's a fart too.
There you go.
I love that shit.
You're keeping the spark alive.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
What else goes on romantically between the two?
Yeah. All the secrets.
I gotta take some notes.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been married forever, man. It works. Just saying.
Any personal highlights then, I guess? What do you guys, as far as takeaways from the full episode, do you have favorite parts or?
Rochambeau.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a whole running gag through the whole thing where I was unaware of that game until this episode. I'm assuming they didn't invent it, right?
I've never played it.
No, I know what Rochambeau is. I don't know if I learned it from that episode or not.
Yeah.
I already knew what it was before that.
Okay.
So this band that I liked before called Farside, they had an album called Rochambeau.
Awesome.
But I don't know if that's what it was or not.
Is it always kick you in the nuts, or is it just like a punch in the arm, or is it?
As boys, we would do kicks in the nuts. But
fair enough. Man, definitely.
I think Sidney Poitier being in it was like,
yeah, just a nice
kind of blew my mind.
little...
Like not in it, but like just like them thinking of him,
right?
And just like I was just like, why? How the hell did they get? Like, why did they think of him to put in there?
Of
but
all the
yeah,
actors, yeah. And definitely the disintegration line at the end was the big, punchline, almost like awesomeness.
Goodbye, Robert Smith. Thank you for your help. Visit us again. Disintegration is the best album ever.
But even that whole string before that is great because it's like, I think one of them says Robert Smith kicks ass, and then like Jesus goes, "Our Savior." That's definitely my personal favorite part. I think is the "Our Savior." And then,
Nat, like, what was like the big thing like from that where you were like, "All right, I'm gonna check it out."
Yeah.
Like just the fact South Park did it, or
well, they definitely introduced me to everything, but then no, I wouldn't say South Park was the reason why I started getting into The Cure, but definitely later on I was like, wow, these two are related actually. Yes.
Yeah, like the first radar kind of blip on the radar kind of thing.
Exactly, yes. This little child getting introduced to the culture, to the real world. And well, regarding the episode, isn't there like the weird version of Love Cats playing when he's disappearing in into the horizon kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess it could be. I remember they took that angle with it, but I never made the Love Cats connection. But yeah, it definitely goes into like a...
There's definitely like some... I don't know. I thought it's either like a love song or Love Cats, but there's like some do 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 do. That's what it sounded to me.
It's like we can get Robert Smith, but we can't get the rights to any Cure song.
Exactly. Well, I love it. And when I was like researching stuff for this episode, I had more questions about like the actual phone call when they called him to read the lines. Yeah. I was like, why didn't they tell him whom he's gonna be? Because apparently he wanted to know, because he was like, I could make different kind of voice, right? But they were like, just be yourself. So I guess they just wanted him to be surprised to see himself as the South Park character. Maybe that's the thing. This is why they kind of left it blank for him, and he just had to read the lines.
I love that. And that's probably why they made it that ridiculous. Of just like, yo, dude, you can just call us on the phone and we're going to make a bunch of big robots, and you just make it silly as shit. Like, I love that, man.
And they probably figured he'd be more on board with it too, it being, because then if he knew the whole script and the whole story, there's a bigger chance of him being like, that's stupid, I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
So like, at least if it just seemed weird, he would be like, all right, sure, why not?
Yeah.
But I love that. I don't even think that they really hinted at that he was a musician through the whole thing, really, other than, saying it's Robert Smith of The Cure. Oh, no, maybe.
It was just like, this is fucking Robert Smith.
Doesn't Chef maybe give a quick, like, when they're driving, I think he says, The Cure from, the 1980s band or something.
Yeah, don't tell me they involved as well.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's not like he's walking around with a guitar or something, or, singing anything. It's...
Chef says, "Don't tell me The Cure has something to do with that too." That's all he said.
Huh? Yeah, maybe not.
Like Chef knew the whole time. Like Robert Smith will save us.
So South Park aired on Comedy Central in US, right? But Robert hasn't seen any episodes when they send him the stuff, right? So like they sent him some episodes that already aired in the States but not in UK. This is why he hasn't really seen anything on TV. So apparently they sent him an episode where George Clooney was gay dog. But he was basically barking all episode long, and I couldn't find this quote, but I remember that I saw it somewhere that Robert thought that he'll be voicing a gay cat. Because I couldn't find it anywhere, I feel like so I don't have the source, but I have it in the back of my mind that Robert was like, I thought that I'll be voicing a gay cat, because, well, obviously, everybody knows Robert loves cats. And
and it's like that subtle Love Cats outro.
Yeah.
In that episode, like, it's all tied together.
Love gay cats.
Like a love cat, but it's gay.
Love cat. It is kind of. Yeah.
He probably rightly assumed that they'd be making fun of him through it, not like making him the hero of the battle. Like it definitely makes sense.
That's the funny part, because apparently the only episode the only episode he knew of was the one with gay dog, so he got it'll be like something else that is weird, but he definitely didn't expect himself to appear as like the South Park character, which is the cool part.
Totally. Yeah, that is cool that he was like full.
I couldn't find the source. I remember it. I definitely saw it somewhere.
Yeah, I
have
saw
it
it
somewhere
too.
in my head, but I don't know.
Could have been. I tried like a week ago. I tried to like just find any like YouTube interviews, like where it was an actual video interview, because I remember there were a few. Like I felt like there was more of like Trey Parker.
There were more
and
of them. Right now, there is like one, right, from like Argentina or something.
Yeah.
And before, I feel like there were quite a few.
It was for some like VH1 when they were doing all those like crazy stuff of the 90s or whatever, and they did like a like a segment where they just that time that the Cure was on South Park and everything's like super fast edits and whatever. But, so maybe,
remember that?
Maybe it was in one of those. Yeah.
And then with like all the nieces and nephews not knowing what's disintegration, like how's it even possible?
Yeah, that almost sounds like like a Robert embellishment. It was like that's what's paying for your college. What are you talking about?
It's like I remember my uncle. Like I have an uncle that shot a shotgun at a random trailer.
Oh God!
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I
remember that.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't have an uncle that made like one of the best records ever. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you not remember that? Like, I remember dumb shit.
Well, I think a lot of my nieces and nephews are like super young. But
I try not to remember the stuff from my uncle.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do you not know? It's like, oh, you're just this cartoon guy now. It's like, no, dude, I had like a whole fucking career, man. Like,
it's crazy though. Like,
I was thinking that maybe they were just kids. They were probably like, I don't really know the age of his nephews and nieces, but I assume it's like the same as mine. So they were probably also like 6.
Kids
so
are
like
dumb.
Cartoons matter to them more than the album.
Yeah.
And then who would actually show South Park episodes to the kids too, right?
Lots of people. Like kids are dumb and South Park is funny. Like if I had kids. Like I would just like I would let them watch
this
South Park.
episode is okay.
Yeah, this one
it doesn't have anything really offensive besides like bitch.
As I said, I have to confess I watched it with my son today because he's a huge Cure fan. As much as a 6-year-old, he is actually 6 years old too. And I was like, you can watch this with it. He just thought it was like the best thing ever. And then he was like, let's watch another one. I'm like, I don't think, man.
Yeah. It's like the one where like they come everywhere, like they get the internet back. Like that episode when it's just like
he's really like
you can't show that around a kid actually.
Yeah, they're all pretty bad. Even this one with the cursing, I was like, but it's nothing he hasn't heard before. But there was like a Pokemon one too, because he's super into Pokemon, and like I watched like half of that a few months ago, and I was like, nope, can't show you this one. It just gets like crazy vile. Like I was just like, whoa, Naps. He was like, come on, man.
It's so funny. Though.
Yeah, no, it's tough.
It's so like
the one that was kind of a knockoff of Jar Jar, where it was the platypus Jackophosaurus or whatever the hell it was. Hi, whoop, whoop, whoop. It's like, but it gets a little too graphic. But so I probably ruined him though.
I think he's all right.
He's gonna be walking around talking like Cartman. Tomorrow.
He was.
Your wife's gonna be like, "What is going on?"
Totally. He was all like, because it is a pretty long build up before Robert Smith gets in there too. He's like, "Where the hell's Robert Smith?" And we were watching it, and it was like halfway through it before they even mentioned it. He was like, "What are you showing me, Dad?" He thought I just like totally lost my mind.
He's like, am I allowed to watch this, Dad? You're like, I don't know.
Right. It's like, just wait for it. Just wait for it. It'll be great.
His next Zoom meeting at school.
Yeah, totally.
Me and my dad watched South Park.
Yeah.
Good job, Gavin.
Yeah, like, oh boy, we got to get these schools going again.
Dad of the fucking year. There you go.
The Nielsen ratings were very high for this episode. It actually was seen by 5.4 million viewers.
That's crazy.
A record high in viewership for not only for South Park, because it was a new show, it was their highest rated episode, but it was 10 times.
Holy shit!
10 times the average viewers of any Comedy Central show at that point. So it was
That's a Cure flex, man.
Yeah,
just saying.
Still relevant.
I think, I would say that mixed with just the fact that it was still a new show.
Yeah,
and
it was super new. Yeah.
Each episode kept gaining.
Yeah,
steam.
it was building so much steam by that point. I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. T-shirts were popping up everywhere, and everybody was doing their impersonations, and just totally. Every episode turned into a have to watch kind of thing.
Right.
So
yeah. This is
when I was doing my research, apparently the first season of South Park was a banger, right? It was a big deal right away.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think some of those. I think the whole season concludes with Mr. Hanky and stuff. So I think that was the first this is all pre Mr. Hanky.
Oh no!
And, that was
Mr. Hanky, the Christmas spoon. Yeah, all the Christmas songs.
Totally
love it.
Yeah,
I totally have a Mr. Hanky dog toy.
Nice.
My dog's chew around and it's just a big Christmas turd. And
what a piece of shit.
Yeah, it just makes me so happy every time I see it.
And my parents, this is how big South Park was. My parents, are pretty chill, with comedy and stuff. We always watch, just stand-up specials and just funny shit, and Pee-wee's Playhouse growing up, all together, and South Park was one of those things that carried on. We just we watched South Park together and just fucking laughed our asses off, like Mr. Hanky, South Park's big, man. It's South Park. I love South Park's stamp on society as a whole. They leave, it's they leave the park clean. They pick up all their litter. They're they're responsible,
they're
being
responsible.
They're being proper citizens, and they're
absolutely.
pointing this shit out. I'll always love South Park because of that. Just pointing out shit that's obvious, pick up your litter, or don't be an asshole, or
It's one of those classic Donald rants you're getting firsthand. It's good. It usually takes me about.
It is a Patreon thing for real. You will get the classic Donald.
If it makes you feel better, it usually takes me about 3 listens through on the edits to know if I really followed him or not. I'm kind of. Have to make the final decision after the fourth listen.
But if you keep them, it's amazing. Yeah. It's so much fun to listen to. It's seriously.
He had a Ben Franklin rant a few episodes back that I tried really hard to make it in.
Why?
It did make
I don't know.
But it was funny because then it kind of came up later. So there's a brief mention of Ben Franklin for some reason, but the whole 20-minute version didn't quite make it.
I would say about half the stuff we talk about is
it'll be really seems like we talk longer than 40 minutes. God bless him. He's working hard.
I was gonna say that as far as probPop culture goes in the late 90s, even the second half of the 90s, South Park is definitely up there at the top.
Yeah.
Probably with Seinfeld and the Matrix maybe, of pop culture significance of the.
How about Simpsons 90s? And stuff?
Yeah, that was more the beginning. The beginning of the 90s up because that came out in the beginning 89.
Okay.
It's just such a long run.
Started it all.
Yeah, without the Simpsons, you wouldn't have had Beavis and Butthead, and without Beavis and Butthead, you wouldn't have South Park.
Exactly, I left out Beavis and Butthead.
Classics, yes.
Beavis and Butthead is the shit. I've never laughed.
Woo! Harder.
It's still just if I can find it, it's on actual TV. It still cracks me up. I can't. It's brilliant. In Mike Judge was
I can only find the skits. I can never find the
the best part
the
was when they
commentary
made
over
fun
the
of the
videos.
videos.
That's the best part.
You can't find them together. I can find them by themselves. I just can't find them together, which was the whole appeal of the show, where you would get into the episode and then you have the break with the videos, and then you go back to the episode. So, but
and then it's that same heart and spirit,
It was all about pushing the envelope, and they did a great job.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and strange that their paths haven't crossed again, or at least in any like visible work or anything, as far as Trey Parker and all, and Robert Smith, and like. You would think at some point they would have done another follow-up. Apparently there was a episode way later, season 14 or something, where they had Mecha-Streisand came back again. It was episode 200.
Yeah, it was like a really, really well done one too, really? Right? It's like now we have money for really good animation, and this is like...
Yeah.
The cool version of Mecha-Streisand.
Like when they got all fancy and like had money to get crazier.
Yeah,
started using computers and everything.
Apparently in that one, she during a duet with Neil Diamond, she lets out a green cloud from her groin to disgust the people of South Park. So that was all I could find out about it.
I remember that episode.
No Robert Smith in it, though. But
now I'm gonna have to watch it later, probably tomorrow.
Yeah,
so.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, all on Hulu.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely so many seasons behind. I didn't realize they'd kept cranking them out as much as they have.
Yeah,
it's pretty rad.
But then, in my memory, they also appeared in this Godlike Genius MTV ceremony.
Yeah,
right?
were they at that?
Seems like. I think there was like this video of like different people talking how much they love The Cure and Robert, and I'm not sure if it's just one of them or both of them, but I think Trey Parker was there for sure.
Yeah,
because doesn't Comedy Central like own or is part of the company of MTV? Like probably.
I think they're related, right?
Some giant conglomerate.
Disney owns all of them.
Oh god.
But I don't know. But
it's how we're all gonna die, right? Like Disney's gonna buy everything, and
I don't think Disney. I just watched a recent episode of South Park where they had Mickey came in and like killed everybody like that was speaking out against Disney. So I really don't think that they're going to be owning South Park anytime soon.
Awesome.
Godlike Genius, this name just makes me like, ew, it's so corny. I don't know.
And that's not it.
Feels gross.
That wasn't even part of the Icon thing, was it? Or the MTV?
No,
the British?
I think it was.
Was that what that was? Yeah, I don't know. But,
the Icons,
But I would like a whole spin-off of just South Park animated Cure biography in South Park style. That would be great if they just did.
I know.
Just have them
playing their early shows and stuff.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Can you imagine what
that'd be fun as fuck?
Yeah, poor Lowell would be a mess. But, Robert said he didn't want to do
dope as fuck.
His autobiography or anything because he wanted it done in a different way. That's why he was technically saying he was going to do that documentary with Tim Pope and stuff just to do it somewhat weird. But that would be great. I think that's a great idea. They should have the Trey Parker and Matt Stone do the whole Cure story as an animated feature film.
You know what? I think it's like Lowell will be like the same character as Kenny, so he'll be like killed all
the time.
He'll like passed out, you know.
Lowell will die every episode, yo.
Oh my god, they killed Lowell. You bastards.
Oh my god, that's great.
That's really good. God.
Who do we got to pitch this to?
I love all the movie ideas with involving Lowell. We should really write these down.
It is.
I love it. If they could call Robert Smith and 98, we can definitely call them right now.
Yeah, I think they're
this
all
idea to the creators of South Park, right?
Totally.
Everything's possible. It shows that everything's possible. If you can call Robert Smith, you can easily call Trey Parker and Matt Stone. So just do it.
They're all free, right? Nobody's doing anything right now. This is the time to hit them up. They're all just
sitting at home.
It's like, what else are they doing? It's like.
But, I guess we could start wrapping this up. Was there any other additional thoughts you had on?
That's the thing. It's like I was trying to do research, but there's not much information, right?
Yeah.
It's like all the same everywhere.
Yeah, it is kind of strange. Yeah, it's just slight variations of the same three little lines or facts,
Exactly.
I guess when you got like the dudes from South Park and Robert Smith as your main source of what happened, you're never gonna get like a very.
You're like, fuck, god damn it.
You're never gonna get a clear story of what the. It's like 90% bullshit on both ends, probably. It's just like, okay,
man.
they're probably like hanging out every weekend and stuff.
I'm doing this bong rip for you, man.
A long distance dedication bong rip. Wow. This is how we officially shoot Donald back to the moon.
And I'm going back to the moon, man.
You're pretty incoherent after this one. So.
Yeah, this is usually where we lose Donald.
Dude, I'm just getting started.
3, 2, 1.
But,
You guys don't even know what moon time it is right now.
We're getting those. I'm glad Donald got all those VHS South Park episodes I sent up to him on the moon. But well, thanks so much for joining us, Nat, and we'd love to have you back
guys.
anytime. I think
the best time.
I hope I could speak for these guys, but it's been an absolute pleasure, and I hope you'll come back anytime.
Absolutely.
We'll get your full origin story, maybe, and dive into various other topics.
Sounds great, and yes, I had the best time, and thanks so much for everything you do for the podcast, and thank you. Thanks for having
me.
Thank you.
me.
Yeah,
Thanks.
you. And keep safe up there, and keep all that positive momentum going. It's carrying over.
Absolutely.
So seems like you guys are doing everything right up there. So we'll be encouraged by that.
Thank you.
Barbara.
Talk hard.
Is it the power in his hands? Is it his quest for glory? Give it all you got to fight to the top, so we can know your story. Now you're a man, a man, man, man. Now you're a man, a mounty, mounty, mount, a man, man, man. You are now a man, you're a man. Now you're a man.
All right, again, a very special thanks to Nat for not only suggesting this episode and this very fun episode, but also being such a wonderful guest and such a pleasure to talk to. I just really can't get over this whole experience with this Cure podcast of when I reach out or somebody reaches out to us and we actually make contact with people all around the world at this point, and it doesn't take long to feel like I've known these people my whole life, and they're just, I'm not somebody that normally talks well to people I don't know, and I'm just blown away by the fact of how many people now that we've had on this show, and it's such a pleasure to talk to, and I just feel like we've been buds for years, and I just can't wait to hang out, maybe it's just I'm losing my mind here with all this quarantine business or something, but I don't know. I attribute it all to Cure love and just being really good people, and there's that common thread, so it must be the Cure and the fact that you're cool people. So Nat, thank you so much, and thank you guys for listening, and I hope everybody's still doing good out there. It was so nice to have a good lighthearted episode where we can kind of just chuckle through an old memory and something hilarious. So I hope you enjoyed it as well. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, Apple, whatever the hell podcast thread it is now, and keep your eyes on that too, because that is where we're sprinkling back the old ones that are interwoven into like Spotify and shit, but it's all there. So when we're starting to get these old episodes back in there, keep your eyes peeled on the bottom of the list there. That'll be older episodes. So we're gonna keep dropping them in. There are only a couple more album ones left before we have all the actual album episodes back in action. So as rusty as we were in our early days of that, check them out if you haven't already. Otherwise, Instagram, the Holy Hour Podcast, is where you can keep tabs on all the updates and such. And the Facebook page, you'll find extra little tidbits. So go on over to Facebook and follow that and comment in the thread there. It's always great to hear from you. And outside of that, just drop me, Gavin Connor, a message if you want to reach out. GavinConnor@gmail.com. Or if you want to drop me an idea, just say, hey, you got a complaint, you got a question about anything, let me know there. And I should be able to steer you in the right direction. And I think that covers it all for now. 17secondshirts.bigcartel.com isn't officially up in action again as far as I know, but keep your eyes peeled. You'll want to jump on it when it is up and running again, and it might even be by the time here, so never hurt. Keep following that. Follow 17_seconds. That's Chaz's Instagram, and you'll even catch more up-to-date updates on his wonderful t-shirts there. And otherwise, I hope everyone's doing good out there, and we'll see what the future brings. Until then, we're gonna keep talking Cure. So thanks, Donald. Thanks, Chaz, and Nat, and all you guys out there. Talk hard.